Ladies and gentlemen, this is our 1-year anniversary. And a year ago, I told a story about myself. And I haven't done that since. But I figure since tonight's a special night, I'd like to share a story with you now. I've always been interested in sex. I've always wanted to learn more about it. I've always wanted to hear more about it. So in the mid-90s, when Loveline became a show on MTV, I was totally hooked into it. People would call in with these very honest questions, and the two hosts would answer the questions with real answers. Well, I mean, Dr. Drew would answer the questions with as much knowledge as he could, and Adam Carolla was there as a comedy guy to sort of help the medicine go down a little easier. And then when I moved out here, I didn't have MTV any longer, but I found out there were radio shows, and so I listened to them all the time, and I love listening to it because I love hearing about sex, I love learning about sex, and there are so many fascinating calls that came. I remember one, if you'll indulge me for just a minute. One of the most fascinating, I remember, I bring this up all the time, this young woman, she was probably about 17 years old, she calls in, and she expresses some concern that she's never had an orgasm. And she's been with lots of boys, but she's never had an orgasm, and she's really wondering if something's wrong with her. Because her friends tell her that they've all been having sex with their boyfriends, and it's like Orgasm City all over the place. And she's like, what's wrong with me? And through the course of the conversation, Drew and Adam sort of sussed out from her that somehow she'd gotten the idea into her head that the orgasms her friends were talking about were like these 30 minutes of extraterrestrial pleasure, soul-shaking, earth-quaking, body pleasure, every nerve cell tingling sort of things. And she was like, well, that's never happened to me. Guess I've never had an orgasm. And she just totally misinterpreted this. And I felt so bad for her. But anyway, that's sort of become a metaphor I like spreading like a bunch of times. And it's one of the things I remember from that show. But anyway, I used to listen to Loveline a lot, and then even after that, like I would get books about sexuality all the time, like like books on sex workers, or books on how these communities work, or books on sex itself. And I started getting this was in the early days, maybe sort of mid-early days of the internet when you can start ordering products online. I got really into ordering like designer sex toys. That's when they were starting to really be designed with really nice shapes and colors, and I was really excited about that. But despite all of this, I actually didn't have a lot of sex in my life. I was just sort of like inundating myself with all this stuff and buying these sex toys, but I didn't have sex in my life. I'd actually never had penetrative sex before, and by this time I was in my mid-20s. I'd had a girlfriend in college, and we'd kissed and gone down at each other and used fingers, but we'd never gone all the way. And I think one of the reasons for that is that I wanted my first time to be with someone special. Because it should be with someone that you really feel like this is the person, this is super special. And that's what I'd always been told, and I was really holding out for that. But at the same time, I kind of wanted a little more sex in my life. So I started posting ads on the Craigslist casual encounter section, and I started meeting women, and I started getting a little more sex in my life, but not that kind of sex, not penetrative. And every woman I met was so incredibly generous with respecting my boundaries. I said, I'm just not ready to go there yet. And the truth was that I was waiting for the right person. And I knew that I wasn't going to be meeting the right person in a sex ad online. Like, that's just not how it works, right? But I kept on meeting these women, and they were very nice with me. Our trysts didn't last too long ever, so I was, always quickly onto another person. But I had fun playing with the toys that I was buying, and it sort of encouraged me to buy new toys, and it was almost like that was almost justification. Since I can't do this one thing, like maybe we can play with this, and this will be a novelty and exciting in this way. So I had all these nice shaped dildos and vibrators, and I even for myself I got a cock ring once. It's stretchy and it vibrates and it goes around like both the cock and the balls, and I tried playing with that myself a little bit. and I would continue meeting these women, and then I met Trisha. Not her real name. It's her real name. Trisha was another lovely person, and we got along really well, and she really respected my boundaries, and we would make out and, like, use fingers and mouths on each other and explore each other's bodies, and we got together like 2 or 3 times, and we played with the toys, and it was exciting, and it was always so much fun. And then I think on our 3rd date, we're both in my bed together, and I'm laying down on the bed, and she's sort of straddling on top of me. We're both naked, and of course I'm very hard because she was super sexy, and she's sort of putting her weight down on my cock, and sort of sliding back and forth because she's very wet, and though I'm not entering her, it feels amazing. I'm sure you've experienced that, or at least I hope you have, because it feels unbelievable just to have that sliding happen. And we're both moaning and going along together. And she says sort of in the heat of the moment, "I want you inside me." And time sort of stopped for me, because over the past year and a half about, I started questioning whether I was holding out for something that didn't really exist out there. If this moment of, like, you'll know the right person because it'll be golden rainbows and lightning bolts from the dark, and you'll just know it's the right person. I wondered if I sort of had built that up too much. Just like that girl with the orgasm who was waiting for some 30-minute orgasm and had convinced herself it had never happened. And frankly, over this year and a half, I was exhausted with wrestling with my decision to no, not now, no, this isn't the right person. And Trisha just seemed so sweet and kind that I said yes. And I think she had said, "I want you inside me," as just sort of a heat of the moment thing. So when I said yes, her eyes kind of went wide, and she said, are you sure? She knew how much that meant to me. And that was really incredibly sweet. About 20 minutes before this, we'd been playing with the toys, and like I said, I had that cock ring that vibrated, and I was wearing that, and just we were having fun, and she had been giving me a hand job, and it felt good. And the thing about cock rings is you're not supposed to keep them on that long. Because things start to get numb. So I was still hard, because that's what a cock ring does. It traps the blood inside the erection. But when I said, yes, I want to do this with you, she started sliding back and forth a little more, and by this time I really couldn't feel anything down there. Except I could kind of feel the rough sandpaperiness of her pubic hair, and it was uncomfortable, and that was all I could feel. So I was kind of excited to even get away from that sensation, and be like, well, I'm sure sex will be amazing if you hear this, it's this amazing thing. And so she lifts herself up, and she positions herself properly. She takes me in her hand and guides me inside of her, and I don't feel a thing. I can kind of feel like pressure moving on me, and I can feel the weight of her body, but I really don't feel anything in the genital area. And she's like, how are you? Does it feel good? And I don't know what to say except, yeah. She knows that this is a really special moment. I don't want to let her down. But frankly, I'm not really feeling a lot. And we go, so we're doing it for probably 5-10 minutes, and eventually I come. It wasn't from sensation, unless, like, it felt numb, but like maybe my penis just sort of had its own sensation. It's like, this feels good. Too bad I can't tell Eric about it. Good job. So I come, and she slides off of me, and she's smiling, and I'm smiling, and I remove the cock ring to let my penis sort of breathe. And we lay down, and we're sort of in that afterglow moment. She's got her fingers playing on my head, and we're just smiling at each other and looking at each other's eyes. And she says, "Are you all right? Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." And it was just this incredibly sweet thing. And I think what I've been thinking about over that whole year and a half was that I didn't want to wait anymore. I think I realized I had been waiting for something that just didn't exist. I was waiting for the wrong thing. And Trisha wasn't the right person. Because I don't think that there is such thing as a right person. But she was the right person in that moment. And in that moment, that's what I needed.